Well, good evening. Welcome to Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church Thursday evening devotions from around the kitchen table. It's getting a little cooler out there, isn't it? It won't be long and fall will be here, and all these beautiful colors will be just everywhere you look. You'll be able to see just beautiful shades of different various colors, and just really a neat time of year. For me it is anyway. Well, I want to talk to you this morning or this afternoon about fear not. Fear not. Boy, that's always a big concern of ours, isn't it? What makes us afraid? And yet God tells us many times throughout His holy word, do not fear. Fear not. Fear not. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 1, He tells us, fear not, for I have redeemed you, and I have called you by name, and you are mine. You are mine. And again in Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 6, the Lord said, be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them. For it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Many things in this world cause us to be anxious or concerned, or causes us to be afraid. Afraid for ourselves, afraid for our loved ones, afraid of our jobs, afraid of our finances, whatever it may be. Various things cause us to be afraid. And the church currently now is going through a situation that's uncertain, unknown. They're still feeling their way through what is taking place, and that causes some anxious moments as well. So just a reminder, God says, don't be afraid. Trust in me. I'm with you. I got you. I got you. May not turn out the way you want, but I got you. Many things, as I say, cause us to be afraid. Not knowing what lies ahead, it really causes us to be concerned, doesn't it? Some people just really get all shook up because we don't know what the next step is or where we're going, and yet God tells us not to fear, to trust in Him. Fear not, He says. Trust in Him. Fear can cause you to be afraid to live, to enjoy the life that Jesus tells us that He came to give you. The abundant life. John's Gospel, chapter 10:10, says, I came to give you life, and that life abundantly. To enjoy life, not to live in fear. When we have God on our side, we need not be afraid, because God is with us no matter what we go through. With Christ in our lives, we know that there is hope for the future. And Jesus tells us in Luke chapter 25, verse 25, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Fear does nothing for us except to make us sick. It just kind of ruins our lives as well, while trust and hope enrich our lives. It just gives us a whole different perspective about things as we go on about living life. David was a shepherd, and then when he became king, all throughout his life, he lived with people trying to cause him harm, if not destroy him. And yet he writes in Psalm 18, verse 6, I will not be afraid. The Lord is with me. What can mere mortals do to me? What can they do to me? The author of Psalms 18 says, I just won't be afraid. Sometimes we have to say that to ourselves too. I am not going to be afraid. I'm not going to let those situations or those other people get to me. So we need to say those things to ourselves as well. I'm not going to be afraid. We know that God is in control and that He is trustworthy. In the words of the famous hymn, he writes, He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. And then it goes on to say He's got you and me in His hands as well. He's got you and me in His hands. And if we're in God's hands, there's no cause to be afraid, no need to be afraid. So why are we still afraid? You know, sometimes we struggle to give up our sense of control or place our trust in something outside of ourselves. That's hard to do. We want to control everything about our lives. Fear can make us be afraid to live the abundant life, as I mentioned a moment ago, that Jesus came to give us. Here are some passages of Scripture to encourage you the next time you're struggling to let go of the fear and trust in God's plan. First is Matthew chapter 10, verses 26 through 28. Jesus said, "Don't be afraid of them. There's nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or nothing hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the rooftops. Do not be afraid of those who can kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both your soul and body in hell." And that's God. And He tells us, don't be afraid, because He's with us. And He has you in the palm of His hand. Paul writes to Timothy in 2 Timothy. Timothy was a young, struggling pastor. He writes in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, "For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and of self-control." Self-control. When we become afraid, we lose those things, don't we? Especially the self-control and the power and the love, and we just become weak and pathetic. And again, Joshua was struggling with some things. He was having a difficult time, and he was afraid. And God spoke to him saying, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." God is with you wherever you go. I know there are things that I get concerned about too in one moment, but in the next moment I know that God is with me, and there's no reason to be afraid, no matter what we have to go through. Well, I hope that helps you, and think about do not fear. Sometimes we need to reflect on those things as well. Well, have a great and blessed week, and enjoy this beautiful weather and the fall that's rapidly approaching us.